Hello and welcome back to episode 2 of the Game Maker Studio tutorials for absolute beginners. My name is Reese Warren and today we are going to be adding basic control input for a player object inside our game. So if you remember from the first video, we created this basic room with primitive wall objects inside of it. What I have done behind the scenes is I have created another sprite, SPR player, and if I quick edit sprite, I've simply got this small little guy here, and I do actually think he needs some eyebrows, so I'm just gonna he's gonna be like an angry guy. It's like, whoa, right. So yeah, I've got a small white player object here. And if I hit OK and then create an object like before from the first tutorial, click create object and then click the small button here, select the player sprite, and then let's just rename him to obj player, like so. Now in this player object, let me just hit OK actually and go to the room. The next thing you want to do, simply go to the object tab in the room editor and then select the player object and simply add him inside the room so he actually gets added to the game, and then go back to the player object, and we're actually going to be using events inside this object editor to get him actually moving inside the game. So to do that, we're going to be clicking add event. And for the purposes of this tutorial, we're going to be using the create event and the keyboard event. The keyboard event, what that is, that occurs every time the keyboard is pressed or held down. So click the keyboard event, and then we can either click left or right. I'm going to click right, and then simply we want to make him move inside the room. So to do that, go to the move tab and then see this big arrow, like horizontal arrow here, drag that into the actions area like so by left clicking and holding, and then this sets speed horizontal. Now if I just type in 5 here and then hit OK and then run the game like so, I will show you what it does. So we've got our game up here, and then if I hit the right key, it moves 5 pixels every time a game updates. But there's a small bug there. I've actually released the key and he's not stopped, so I actually want him to stop if I release that key. So this is where the create event comes in. So to do that, click add event again and then click create instead, and there's a small variable inside GameMaker called friction, and what it does, it slows a moving body down if it's not having any force applied to it. So it's this small icon here that's got 2 horizontal arrows in the move tab. Just drag and drop that in, and then set the friction to say something like 0.25, like so, and then click OK. Now if I hit run the game again, sorry, he will slow down, like so. That's because the friction is actually stopping him after he's stopped moving. So now we've got that working, we actually want to get the left button working. So it's the same event again, but this time we're going to right click this one and click duplicate event, and then we're going to click keyboard and then left, like so. But the horizontal speed, I've already set this to 5 in the right one, so I can't set it to 5 in the left one because that means it's going to move in the same direction. But this variable is actually something called a scalar quantity, so it can either go in one of 2 directions. It can either be positive or negative. So if I want it to move toward the left of the screen, I simply change this to -5, like so. Hit OK, and then run the game again, and we should have right and left input working, like so. And he stops after you release both keys. Now, there's actually one more thing I want to change about this in this video. When I press the key, he actually starts moving instantaneously, and in real life it wouldn't be like that. There'd actually be an acceleration applied to the player object, so that he gradually picked up speed over time. And the way we can do that is actually manipulating the code in the right and the left keyboard event. So in the right, for example, where it says set horizontal speed, just double click it and it brings up the menu again. But this time we're not going to be using 5, we're going to be using 0.5. Now you may be questioning me, that's like really slow compared to what we had before, like 1/10 of the speed. But what we're actually going to be doing, we're going to be keeping the speed the same. And the way we're going to do that is actually enable something here called relative. And what that does, that adds the initial value to the new value. So in the beginning, when you press the key, it'll be 0, and then when it's held down, it'll be 0.5. Then the next game update will be 1, and then 1.5, and then 2, and so forth. But at this present state in time, he can actually accelerate indefinitely. We don't want him to do that. We actually want to impose a top speed on him so he can't accelerate anymore. Now to do that, what we do is go to the Control tab, and then see this question mark here. If I hover over this, it will say test expression, and what we can do, drag that into the actions area, and make sure it's above the horizontal speed. And what we can do, inside every object in GameMaker there is like pre-built variables that you can change, and one of them is H speed. So that actually represents the horizontal speed. So to do it, this all has to be lowercase, by the way. So H speed, if we check that variable and essentially state that H speed is less than 5, like so. So if H speed is less than 5, we can accelerate further. And then once it reaches 5, it's actually going to get limited at 5. So, and it's not going to perform this second statement here. It's just going to go to the condition and say, like, hey, I'm already going 5 pixels a second, so I'm not accelerated anymore. So yeah, that is perfectly fine now. So all we need to do now is go to the left event and do the same again, but this time the inverse of what we just said. So this time we need to check if H speed is greater than -5, like so, and then likewise set the horizontal speed to -0.5 and make sure that's relative, like so. Now if we run the game, he will actually have an acceleration applied to him, and hopefully this works. So yeah, he actually like gradually accelerates and gradually decelerates, so that's much more realistic. So in the next tutorial, what I want to cover is getting the gravity working, so he actually falls down and collides with blocks. And to do that, we're going to be using the step event. And the other thing I want to do is add a jump feature. So all of that stuff is relatively related to one another. So I want to leave that for episode 3 of these tutorials. But in the meantime, thank you for watching.